What's up guys, Talon Rebels Off-Road. We are back in the lab and we have our secret weapon that we're going to be testing out.
Release the secret weapon!
We are going to be proving or disproving how much is fact and how much is fiction. I am talking about the illustrious center feed fuel rail. Now, doesn't that look fancy? Does this correct a fueling issue on cylinder 2? Or is it just a shiny bit of metal to put on your KRX? We will find out in this episode, where we will be getting back to the facts and giving you real test data to see if this actually does something. Stay tuned, smash that like button and subscribe for more great content. Let's get into it. So we got this from All Things UTV. It is a center dump fuel rail. It actually looks pretty nice. There was a little burr in one of the ports. We cleaned that up, but overall it's nice. Billet aluminum, machine part, very nice looking. But we're gonna talk about the theory behind why people get these and kind of the whole thought process behind it. So this is a little diagram of the stock fuel system. We have the fuel pump. It feeds to the fuel rail, which feeds the injectors, and then fuel comes out. Whoop. Fuel comes out like that, right? So that's the stock system. But what you notice is it feeds it into the fuel rail and comes out the first injector and the second injector, and they're in line. So what's thought is this can create a starved fuel system situation for cylinder 2, which is the second one in line. Some people notice that cylinder 2 melts down easier, and a lot of times that's from a lean condition. And so the thought is that this kind of setup feeds more fuel to cylinder 1 than cylinder 2. So enter the center dump fuel rail. So the center dump fuel rail fixes this problem by feeding into the center of the fuel rail, hence the center dump fuel rail. So it's even amount of space between cylinder 1 and cylinder 2 injectors, meaning that the fuel will disperse evenly between the two injectors. Thought process is, let's see what the facts are. So first step in this experiment is to test out the stock fuel rail. And how we're going to do that is we are going to open up the injectors full blast and run the fuel pump full blast and see if the fuel gets evenly dispersed between them. Meaning, if the fuel pump can provide enough pressure to both of the injectors at the same time. If this is the case, well, then the center dump is kind of pointless, because obviously if it can provide fuel in this extreme condition where it's running constantly and they're both open at the same time, something that would never happen in real life, it obviously is sufficient for every other condition. So we're going to do that first. If they are evenly dispersed, then we'll know that the center dump doesn't do anything. If they are not evenly dispersed, we'll have to dig in a little bit deeper to figure out if it's because of them running at that high load cycle, or if it's actually because the fuel rail does something. So then we'll repeat the setup with the center dump fuel rail and see if it does anything. All right, so for this test, obviously I don't have the transmission in here. If you haven't watched that video, go ahead and check it out. I'll put a setup here. We had some problems with the transmission that are getting fixed, but that gave us a perfect opportunity to test out this fuel rail. So what we've done here is we've wired both of the fuel injectors up to the red and black wires so we can supply power to them. And then we have these precision measurement tools sitting here with the injectors in them. We've also wrapped the injectors with electrical tape just to hold them into that fuel rail, since there is no mechanical attachment to keep them in the fuel rail. We don't want them to shoot out from the fuel pressure. So this will collect our fuel and then we'll be able to compare them. Then we will just run these leads over to the battery, where we'll jump them and open up those injectors. Next, we have these cords which go over to the fuel pump to provide power to the fuel pump. So let's show you what we did there. So we basically jumped that red and white wire, which is the 12-volt power to the fuel pump. Listen, as we touch these together, you can hear the fuel pump turn on. So that will provide the power to the fuel pump, getting us fuel flowing into the fuel rail, and then we'll open up the injectors with those jumper wires to continue the flow evenly between those two fuel injectors, and we'll see what happens. So just so you can see, that says cylinder 1 and that says cylinder 2. All right, so we have the bottles marked here, cylinder 1 and cylinder 2. Now let's compare the levels. Ooh, very interesting. See that? Yeah. So it would actually appear that cylinder 2 got a little bit more fuel than cylinder 1. Easy. So I think this deserves a repeat test because that's really surprising. I would have thought they would have flowed exactly the same, if anything, or cylinder 1 would get more fuel. However, our cylinder 2 was getting more fuel. Wow, it happened again. This time, this one, cylinder 1, has a little over, I would say 175 milliliters. And this one has almost 200 milliliters. All right, so we're gonna try one more time with the bottles switched, because I'm thinking, well, maybe, these are the high precision, measuring tools. These are imports. So I'm gonna test that out, switching the cylinder 1 bottle for the cylinder 2 bottle and the cylinder 2 bottle for the cylinder 1 bottle. We'll try it one more time before saying the conclusive results. So I switched the bottles. Now cylinder 1 has the cylinder 2 bottle and cylinder 2 has the cylinder 1 bottle. All right, final results. Now, remember, cylinder 2 is actually cylinder 1. So that's cylinder 1, and this is cylinder 2. Okay, so here is what is going on. This is reading just over 175 milliliters. And this one's reading just at 175 milliliters. So these precision tools aren't so precise. We'll check that real quick. I'm gonna dump this one out, and then I'm gonna fill this one with this one, and we'll see where it lands. All right, so I emptied out this one. Now we're gonna go ahead and pour this one into this one. It comes out to be 175 milliliters. We know that we have exactly the same flow between the cylinders. All right, there it is. Wow. I don't know if you can see that, but it's at 175 milliliters. Well, that means the myth is busted. The stock fuel rail provides fuel evenly to both cylinders, exactly evenly, even with it not being center fed. So the claim that the center dump fuel rail solves a starvation issue on cylinder 2 is completely garbage, because we've just proven that there was no issue with the stock rail with regard to the fuel starvation issue. Now, I know some of you are going to be saying, well, it's not really about the fuel starvation, it's really about aeration and about harmonics in the engine and stuff like that. Well, maybe, right? There is this outside possibility that air bubbles could affect differently. That's going to be very minute. Unless there's a spot that air bubbles can collect, which the fuel system does not have, that is not going to happen in as dramatic of a way as people are going to claim. Also, harmonics on the engine are going to be affected differently at different RPMs. So maybe at some RPM, harmonics are going to be affected negatively on the stock system, but also maybe harmonics are going to be affected negatively with the center dump fuel rail. Or the center dump fuel rail could do absolutely nothing with that regard. But really the only way to test that out is with performance, because the stock rail is not going to starve your cylinder. So it's going to be a very small performance change with the aeration or with the harmonics, if that is a real thing. So let us know down in the comments if you want us to do a before and after performance test with the Draggy, getting some real numbers and times and stuff like that. Let us know down in the comments. But for now, we feel very confident that the stock fuel rail is sufficient for pretty much everyone, unless you're going to a super performance build engine. And that fuel starvation issue is not caused by the stock fuel rail. Well, shoot. Broke that. Just like I broke the myth. All right, guys, hopefully that settles the debate on the center dump fuel rail, and hopefully you learned something from this video. Go and smash that like button and subscribe if you did, and we'll see you next time.
'Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning.